Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to another edition of Stretch the Sketch. And this month is actually for August of 2021. I don't normally say that, but we have this sketch from Page Maps that we are using. And I thought this was a really fun one. You can get a lot of photos on this particular one. So I I had a really hard time choosing papers for this one, and you don't see all of that because I kind of cut all of that out because literally I sat for probably about 2 hours looking at this paper going, do I like this? Do I not like it? I ended up leaving it on my desk overnight and coming back to it, and I just was not sure on the papers. So yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting. There's a spoiler alert. I do end up changing that background paper. I don't go with the polka dot one, but I do stick with this yellow, the green, and then that navy blue with the floral. So basically, I ended up cutting my papers to be just a little bit larger than my photos in width, and my photos are a little bit smaller than 3x4 because I print on my Canon Selfie, so they don't print a true 4x6 photo, so you can't get a true 3x4. It's a little bit smaller, but they're certainly not as small as what is what is marked in the actual sketch. The sketch has them much smaller, so yeah, so I went a little bit larger. And then I varied the lengths of these papers, the green and the yellow papers, because I didn't want them to be completely lined up perfectly. And I did not measure. I kind of just said, oh, take a little bit off of this one and a little bit off of that one. The floral paper is about 8 inches in length. And then, I don't know, maybe an inch and a half wide, maybe inch and 3/4 wide. I didn't measure the width because I know I am tucking it into the paper that is on the far right and the paper that is on the far left, because it's just going to peek out like it is a layer that goes all the way across the page, but it actually does not go all the way across the page because there was no sense in wasting all of that beautiful paper. Um, so so yeah, this is where I'm just going to go ahead and line up my photos. I have, let's see here, I think 10 photos. Yeah, I think 10 photos, and then two 3x4 cards. And the 3x4 cards, I am going to trim those down to be the same size as the actual photos. And so I didn't want them to be any larger. And I don't know what was going on today with my desk because I kept hitting the button. You're going to see it happen multiple times, but I kept hitting the button to turn on the light that does the backlighting for it. And I think my hand must have been really hot or something because it normally does not pick up on that when I do a double page layout. But for some reason today, it picked up on it several times. So I do end up using black soot distress ink to ink up all of those papers because the black definitely settles down all of those bright colors. It gives a little bit of rest to your eye, even in these little tiny amounts. It's not necessarily white space because there's not a lot of it on there, but it does, it also helps create a clear delineation between the paper layers, and so that kind of makes it a little bit less confusing for your eye. So here is where I switched to just a white background, and that is so much better. Originally I was going to go with that polka dot paper because it had all of the colors in it, and these photos, because they're from a wide range of the day, there are a lot of different colors. Noah's shirt has like turquoise and orange in it, which match perfectly with the 3x4 card, and the plaid portion of that green paper. But there's no orange in this, although the polka dot paper did have the orange. But so that was one reason I kind of wanted to pull that in, but then when I was sitting there looking at it, I was like, this is just way too much. And, you know, sometimes you just need to know when too much is too much. And then I did want to stick with that floral paper because 2 of the photos have these red and blue cars in them, which are not in any of the other photos. And so I wanted to make sure that there was some red and blue because otherwise they looked really out of place with everything else. The photos were taken at a park and zoo that is near our house, It has a small zoo area, and then it has a park, and it's got some rides, and it's got a big playground area, and you have to pay to get in and everything, but the playground area is huge, and then it does have these attractions that the kids can go on. And so I wanted to make sure I documented that. So that, and then also that other ride that he's on there has a big yellow and orange. They're called granny bugs. And so, yeah, so there's a lot of colors going on in the photos. And that was kind of why I was like, okay, well, that polka dot paper takes care of that. But obviously that went by the wayside. So I do end up liking the way that this looks. I think that the colors are all represented that really need to be represented. And I think it turns out looking really cute. In these photos that I am matting right now, he is with the meerkats, so there's lots of browns in those photos. And so by adding the white border is actually printed on the photo. It's the way that I have the settings set up in my selfie to print. And then I matted everything with black. And so by adding that white and black, it just gives a little continuity to everything. And so I like the way that that's looking. And I do want my photos, there goes my light again. I do want my photos lined up horizontally because my papers are not lined up. So I wanted something lined up. And so the photos were the best choice. And they don't look like they're centered on the papers because some of the papers are a little bit over the other papers so that it has a little bit of layering. So I can't go by that, so that I pulled out my T-square ruler and just decided to use that to kind of line things up. Now I am going to move some of my photos around because I end up moving that Oh Happy Day card over to the right-hand page, and that is simply because of the embellishments that I'm going to use. So I will be changing that shortly. Now I did pull out my Pink Fresh Studio dies, and I cut the alphas for my title, and it says Happy Hollow, and that is the name of the park and zoo. And I did it twice. I did it once with the floral paper that is on the two edges, and then once in black so that I would have the black border around it, because those dies cut both the border, the outline of the letter, and the actual letter. And they are popped up onto some foam tape. If you're interested in seeing how that is done, I will have a video coming out very soon that shows how I create those letters. I will actually try to pop that up within the next couple of days. So I filmed actually making these letters, but I didn't keep it in this particular video because the video is already pretty long. And so I thought I would make it a separate video because I have actually had the request from people to actually show how that's done. And I know not everybody wants to necessarily sit through that because I've done it on other videos, but I thought it would be easy to find if I did it as its own separate video. So I did pull out some white rickrack, and on the sketch it does have rickrack on it, or a chevron piece, and so I thought that was a nice way to bring that in. And I'm not bringing it into the exact same area. It has like the title in the upper left-hand corner, and it has the rickrack in that area. And I'm not a big, I didn't have enough room for the title, first of all, in the upper left. And I'm not big into using rickrack, but I thought this was a good place to use it. So I am just using my Zotz Bling, which is an adhesive, in case you didn't know that. And so it's just a really small, kind of like a glue dot to hold this rickrack down. And I was having a hard time because the dots are so tiny on the backing that it was hard to see them. And so I just kind of had to keep cutting pieces off so that I could get it underneath there and not have it like get caught on other pieces of the adhesive. So I do like how it looks. It creates a nice little layer for where or a shelf for where the title is sitting. So that makes me kind of happy. And I realize that the title is not super bold, but I'm okay with that. It actually looks fine in person. I think maybe I think the black outline definitely helped with that. I could not have left it without that black outline. And it is all on black foam tape, or black fun foam. It's not foam tape, it's fun foam. And that's actually die cut with the actual paper on top of it. So again, you can check out that video on my channel. So I am making sure I'm putting a really good layer of the adhesive. I don't normally put quite so much, but I needed to go all the way around the outside of the letter so that the black outline would make sure that it stayed adhered to the page, because that is actually a separate die cut piece, that little black piece. Now I have some flair that I just got from Adam over at Dotty About Flair, and it had this perfect set that had all of the colors in it that were in my layout. So I pulled these 3 pieces out, and those are going to be like my main embellishment areas. And I'm not doing a lot of embellishing on here because there's already a lot going on with all of that pattern paper, and there's so many photos. I'm trying to keep it kind of simple. But what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to move my photos around, because I didn't want 2 of the flair to be quite so close together as the 3x4 cards were. They were only like 1 column apart from each other, and I wanted to separate them just a little bit more. And so I moved my photos around. I do want to keep the 3 meerkat photos together, so those got moved to the bottom. And then I didn't mind if the photos of the rides are split up, because they're 2 different rides. So I'm really happy with the way that these came out. And what I did was I used those foam mounting squares. You can see them at the top of my screen there. And I cut them in half, and I used those to adhere the flare down. And then I am going to add a little phrase sticker to each one of these embellishment areas to pop in a little bit more black. And while I do that, I'll remind you that this is a monthly hop, the 3rd Sunday of the month. Go check out everyone else that's playing along. There are links in my description box down below. We are all stretching this sketch either larger or smaller than it was originally intended. So you're going to have lots of different sizes and inspiration available to you. And you can go back. We've been doing it for more than 3 years, and you can see lots of inspiration over the years. We also do have a Facebook page that you can go and check out, and if you just search on Stretch the Sketch, it should come up. It is a page, not a group. We post the sketch that we're using, and we post our layouts there so that you can go and see how we have adapted it for the size that we are making in that particular month. So I tend to do a lot of double page layouts, but there are things that go all the way down to traveler's notebooks. That was really poor English. I have actually gone as small as a card before, but that was quite a while ago. So hopefully you are enjoying this series, and if you do, give us a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to the channels that are involved in this, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to them and hit the little bell button so you get notifications that when we post, because there are quite a few of us that do this challenge every single month. I do it every month, but I have a whole group of ladies that play along with me. You'll see all kinds of good stuff on their channels. I've decided to add some rickrack underneath each one of these flare badges, because the one in the bottom right has the rickrack under it. I thought it would be nice to add it to the other 2 areas. And so in this case, I had to pop that one off, and it took a bunch of the paper off. It's going to be covered anyway, but I end up redoing the foam on it because it just did not want to stick. And I actually had put the liquid glue under it, but it was just still having trouble. So I just pull it off, pop the foam off, and add a different piece of foam to it. I did have to double up my foam underneath the little phrase stickers, and that is because the flare badge adds so much dimension to it. And they're not super thick, but when you add the foam tape under it and then the flare is on top of that, I just had to go ahead and give those phrase stickers some added support. And off camera, I took it all over to my sewing machine, and I put a black stitched border all the way around the entire layout. You're not going to see that here because it is off screen, but if you look at the close-ups, you will see that black stitched edge all the way around it. So I thought that finished it off really nicely. And that is going to finish off my layout. Thank you so much for watching. The still shots are coming up in just a few moments, so stick around for those. If you have questions or comments, you can leave them down below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. I'll see you guys again soon with another video. Bye-bye.